Hi everyone, my name is Donagh Ward and I'm a counsellor and a faculty lecturer with PCI College in Dublin, and I hope that this finds you and yours safe and well and healthy at this time, at this very challenging time. That's actually the subject matter of my little talk today, is how do we keep ourselves mentally well and okay during these challenging times. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a few tips, a few suggestions around kind of what we can do to kind of keep ourselves safe and our own self-care around our psychological and emotional health during these times. Some of this might be repetition for you already. You know, there's been quite a lot of talk over the past few weeks around minding ourselves, and if it is repetition, it's no harm to hear it again, I suppose. But you might pick up something new as well in this. The tips or suggestions that I'm going to give to you here, and they are suggestions, it's not anything that you need to follow by the rule of law around things. Sometimes when we think we have to do that in itself causes guilt or anxiety around things. They're just suggestions, they're just a few tips that you might find beneficial. So I've garnered together a few from a few different sources, kind of the World Health Organization, the International Red Cross, and the HSE. And in and of themselves, these tips are evidence-based and facts-based, which, as in academia and PCI College, we like things that are fact-based. So hopefully you'll find some of them beneficial. The first one I'm going to speak about is trying to maintain a routine in our day-to-day lives. Even though everything has changed kind of around us, it's still important psychologically to try and maintain a routine, as if what was going on wasn't going on, but as in getting up at the same time of day as we usually would if we were going out to work. Perhaps some of you are still have to go out to work and you have that routine imposed upon you, but for those of us who don't, we need that little bit of discipline around kind of trying to get out of bed at the same time in the morning, having a plan, something of a framework for the day ahead that enables us to get a few things done, achieve a few things, and being able to say, well, that's what I set out to do today. For those of you who are homeschooling children, it's important for the kids to have a sense of routine and a bit of a plan and a bit of structure. It doesn't have to be a tight minute by minute structure, just a loose kind of enough structure, but at least a few things. This is what I'm going to do myself personally today, or set out to do, or with the kids, this is what we're going to set out to do. So it's good to have some sort of a plan or a framework like that. The next thing is around, again, something you're probably hearing commonly, but the technology that we have in terms of social media and the internet is fantastic, and that's a real positive around kind of helping us to stay in communication with loved ones, with friends, for us, some of us to be able to work online. That's brilliant. Word of warning around getting information from social media, getting information from whether to do with COVID or something else. It's not a great source of information. So just be careful with your use of social media. Again, great for keeping in contact. Do take a break from it, but definitely don't use that as a news source. Try and get your sources of news and information from fact-based news organizations, or if you're not sure around kind of what you're hearing is factual or not, try and do a bit of digging around that. Google have just recently launched a fact-checking service themselves, in fact. So it's if you Google fact checker, it'll bring you to this, and you can type in the thing that you're not sure about, and it will bring you to reliable news sources around. The reason I say that is that when we get misinformation around things, or fake news or conspiracy theories around things, that can obviously really spike our anxiety, because if what we were hearing was true, that might be really worrying. But a lot of what we hear on social media simply isn't true. So we need to try and take a break from that around things. Again, I'm not dissing the technology. Technology is fantastic. I wouldn't be able to talk to you like this without it. But just be careful on the usage in terms of news sources around things. So something that we know is important for us physiologically is exercise or physical activity. But there's lots of research to suggest that exercise is really good for our mental health as well. I speak as someone who has had a number of issues with my own mental health over the years, pretty much most of my lifetime, with depression in particular, and along with a few other things, a bit of exercise helps me in terms of keeping my mood kind of regulated. I kind of treat physical exercise almost like I would medication in terms of getting my daily or weekly dosage of exercise. So it's really important, particularly now during these things are so restricted and this kind of lockdown phase, for us to get out while we still can. And at the time of recording, we're still allowed to go out, exercising social distancing procedures and being cautious and careful and responsible around that. But if we can at all, get out for a walk or a jog or a cycle on our own, and just 20 minutes of that will do wonders for it. It's not that it does wonders immediately, but generally we feel the benefits, and if we don't do it, then we feel the negatives afterwards. So I would be just advocating a little bit of exercise. If you are confined to the house, or if in next week we're all confined to indoors, we can still do some exercise. We can, if you have a stairs, you can run up and down the stairs a few times, or exercise also doesn't have to be formal exercise. Any type of physical activity, cleaning the house, or kind of doing a bit of gardening or stuff, anything that kind of gets the heart rate up a little bit, is good for the mental health as well as the physical health kind of side of things. These are tough times. I'm not denying that, but all the better. The next tip is around practicing kindness, just around being gentle to ourselves, first of all. We're going to have emotional outbursts. Some things are really challenging. We're not going to be able to play by the rules of this, if you like, 24/7 emotionally. It's tough, and we need to accept that it's tough. We need to accept there's going to be a certain amount of anxiety, frustration, confusion around things. So practicing kindness to ourselves and others can have can give us a bit of a lift, a bit of a break, and accepting that times are tough, but we all need to be a little bit kinder to each other. And we're seeing lots of examples of that in society at the moment, and I'm sure you are too. So remember to be kind to yourself and to other people. Another basic thing, sounds very basic, but it's really important around our maintaining our mental and physical health, is getting adequate sleep and rest. Again, that's why routine is important, going back to the first tip, because the more that we kind of can stick to something of a routine, a normal routine, if you like, the better that is in terms of psychologically, emotionally, but also physically in terms of, so again, not staying up too late, trying to get up early enough in the morning, kind of keeping that routine. Sleep is really important, and for most of us, roughly, we're talking 7 or 8 hours of proper sleep and rest. If we're not getting that, you just need to check your sleep time habits a little bit, your nighttime habits. Are you spending too much time on the screen before bed or in bed? Or another obviously major thing that can come between us and our sleep is anxiety. And a few tips then. The next tip is, I suppose, is around dealing with anxiety. If a lot of the time, and of course at this particular time, a lot of us have all sorts of anxieties that a month ago we didn't have, around kind of obviously the COVID situation, the health, our own health, the health of loved ones, employment. Some of us have lost work or jobs around things, a lot of people, so financial stress is there. So just a few tips on dealing with anxiety. Try not to get too engrossed in the what if, projecting ahead with worry around kind of what if this happens, what if that happens. Try and stay grounded in the present moment as much as we can, even if the present moment mightn't be great, but it's usually not as catastrophic or disastrous as the what if, the worst case scenario things that we develop. Even though we, again, as I said earlier, we accept that we are going to worry at times, but try and figure out what can I control, what can't I control. There's a lot of things that's outside of our control, like other people's behaviour, with social distancing, or the actions of other people, or predicting what's going to happen, things like that. How long this is going to go on for, we can't really control that. What we can control is things like our usage of social media, I was saying, our positive attitude, trying to maintain that, our own behaviour around social distancing, or practicing kindness, as I was saying, like that, and like that before. So these are things that generally kind of can help with some anxiety. Maybe use this time, however long it is, for learning something new. I've set myself the task of learning to play a few chords on the guitar, something I always wanted to do, but for one reason or another never got around to do it. So I'm very badly beginning to play a few chords on the guitar. So it can be an idea just to set yourself a task. Again, don't beat yourself up about it if you don't learn a new language, or learn to play an instrument, or learn to become a fantastic cook. Don't beat yourself up about it if you don't do that, because that's not what these are only suggestions, but it can be something that we can look back at and say, well, during the COVID-19 crisis, this is what I set out to do, and this is something I did. Next one is just around, and I'm surprising myself saying this, noticing nature. I'm not the most observant of nature or of but the weather has been beautiful, is beautiful at the moment, looking out my window here. Spring is coming early, and I am actually noticing when I do get out for a bit of a walk, or even just open the window of the house, I'm noticing birdsong, because there's not as much distractions, there's not as much traffic kind of going on around. So appreciating and noticing nature. One of the positive things that's coming out of all this, and it can be difficult to find positives at times, but how nature over the past month or so worldwide pretty much is regenerating itself and getting a break from us human beings and how we interfere with nature. So try appreciate nature a little bit more. Just another couple of tips around, be careful of the abuse of alcohol or drugs in general. Alcohol being a drug, of course, it's mood altering, and so again, in moderation, it shouldn't be a difficulty, but just be careful at this time, now that we have time on our hands and kind of might be at a bit of a loose end for things to do. Try not to rely too much on alcohol or drugs. They will exacerbate things like anxiety or mood issues or depression in the longer run. So just try and keep a limit on the alcohol intake or the drug intake. So I'm coming close to the end of the talk for today. The last thing is just around to maintain that, to reassure you that in terms of self-care and minding our mental health, different things work for different people. There isn't one set or a list of things that if you do this, then everything will be okay. Different things work for different people. So find what works for you and try and do a little bit more of it. Think, what can I do a little bit more of? What can I do a little bit less of in terms of maintaining my mental health? So for example, some people love gardening and love that as a hobby or a pursuit or almost a mindful practice, but that's not going to work for everyone, me included. Not a great gardener or fan of gardening. So go easy on yourselves. Try and find something that you enjoy doing. So instead of me gardening, I'll read a book for an hour or so, and that is self-care for me. So I'm going to finish up for today after this brief chat. I hope that you have found something of benefit perhaps, and I hope to talk to you again. Before I go, I'm going to play a little song very briefly, show you off my new basic chords. Don't worry about a thing, every little thing gonna be alright. Singing don't worry about a thing, every little thing is gonna be alright. That's all I know. So keep washing your hands, keep your social distancing going, and we will get through this together. Thank you very much for listening. Stay safe.